Welcome back to another episode of Won't Be Silent. I'm happy to have Daniel Saynt here, who I've actually known for a long time, have not seen him for eons. And we're actually going to be launching his run for what is it? What
New York,
category?
New York District 13, Congress. Yeah, we're starting
Wow.
the we're starting the work now for 2028. So we got 3 years, basically.
I think it's wonderful that the fashion industry has an ability to kind of breed other people into the politics, because that's originally where you got a lot of your chutzpah, I would imagine. No,
Yeah, no, I think the fashion industry does like breed you for politics. I mean, I think it's like the gatekeeping that exists within it and like the levels that you can achieve within the world of fashion. I think there's definitely a breeding ground there. You have to be ready every single season. You have to be ready to show, ready to present. And I think politics does play into that a little bit, where you have to be ready.
and if you've ever worked on getting, seating celebrities at front row, that's a killer game right there, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're
Amazing.
they're basically lobbyists.
So just a quick thing. So Daniel and I know each other from when I lived in New York City. So it's actually been a good at least 15 years since we've connected. And I saw him like randomly on social media, which was a pleasure to see him standing so forthright for the Jewish community. And I tell us a little about what brought you here, your religion, a little bit of your background.
Yeah, I mean, not Jewish myself, but I would be someone who would, not be afraid to call myself a Zionist. I think that, what we're seeing in Israel and what we're seeing for happening to Jewish people right now in New York is shameful. And I think that it is something that, should be called out and should be paid attention to. My background is being a Christian, and I was raised Christian, and I've always kind of had faith as a big part of my life. But, um, I don't know. What I'm seeing right now is just something very different. And I think there has been kind of a rot happening within the Democratic Party that needs to be addressed and needs to be challenged. And I don't think we can allow for what's been happening to continue. And I think people have to be more vocal about it. And I think that's what has kind of led me to this like path of politics now and kind of running into what changes can be done and what can I do when it comes to all this stuff and how can I help? Because I think right now there's a massive need for help to the Jewish people, especially in New York.
So I see you're going to be running in District 13, which is Northeast Bronx, Inwood, Washington Heights, East Harlem, and Harlem. Is Riverdale in there?
I don't know. It's like it should fall within it because it goes up to Kingsbridge and right off of Kingsbridge is Riverdale.
Yeah.
I believe it's still part of it. Yeah. If you look at the map of it, the way the district, they just changed the districts like 2 years ago, I believe. Like it was a redistricting thing. They completely changed how that region was, set up. So it has become a much bigger district. There's like 700,000, 750,000 people within that area. And now it represents, a big part of Manhattan, everything from 140th and up, and then you have the Bronx and Kingsbridge and Grand Concourse. And I was born and raised in Kingsbridge. So that's where I'm from. I'm originally from that area. So when I saw that, I became very interested. And since leaving the Democratic Party, I've been part of the Democratic Party for 24 years. Looking at what the competition looks like, I just felt like there really hasn't been any attempt at all to kind of reach out to the people there. And I think that the Republican Party in New York has kind of forgotten about that area. And I think that there is an opportunity to kind of present something new. I feel that people in New York, there's a lot of Democrats who are tired of what the party is doing and they're not enjoying the socialist bent for it. I think a lot of Puerto Ricans and Dominicans and Black people who live in those areas are kind of tired of being the ones who have to, you know, deal with the pollution that comes from congestion pricing. We see increases in asthma now happening in those areas because of congestion pricing. They're not receiving any of the benefits of that money, but they have to receive, the pains of what comes with it. And now we're seeing, Mondami getting ready to introduce Mondami Mart without considering any of the small businesses in that area and the people who will now have to compete directly with the government to just keep their businesses open and to keep their families fed. So I think there is a lot of potential within that area to present something new, to present something that's independent, potentially, Republican candidate. But I see it as a massive blind spot for the Republicans in New York to not consider that that area has potential to change.
So when you left the Democratic Party, did you just go non-party affiliate, or did you automatically register as a Republican so you can run and then get the support of whatever fledgling Republican Party is still alive, alive in New
Well,
York City? I mean, you
I
know.
think there's a massive opportunity to run as independent, and I think that that's a path that can lead to me kind of taking that seat. I think the Republican Party can get smarter about how they approach New York. I think that they're going to be feeling very emboldened by what we just saw happen in California, with Spencer Pratt kind of rising very, very quickly to gain a substantial amount of the vote, with Hilton as well, Steve Hilton, kind of gaining that massive amount of support and becoming the majority winner of that race for governor. And I don't want them to forget about New York. I don't want it to be something where it's like, okay, Mondami's there. That's Mondami's stand. We're not going to go there. I think Republicans need to really challenge what happens here. And looking at the party and who they presented, like the guy who is running, he got 4,000 votes last time, doesn't have a website, doesn't have social media presence. It just is the face to run every single time unopposed, so there's no real people even trying to get the seat. And yeah, I think that needs to change. I would love for the Republican Party to want me to be their candidate for that area. I don't know. I'm still in the beginning phases of this and laying out my
Yeah,
plan.
no, it's you're early enough to really start making, the right, set the right path for yourself and make the right inroads with the various groups. And, if you do have, check on the Riverdale thing, because there's a big Jewish community there too.
Yeah, no.
So,
I
and
mean,
there's a couple of big schools there like Fieldston and some other, yeah. So
we
that's
have
my,
some good spots. I mean, you have Bronx of Science there. You have a lot of good schools there. You have Fordham University there as well.
right.
So there is some big potential in terms of like student activism and students being activated within that area. And I really, it really does come down to like addressing what are the problems for that area, and how Mandami is ignoring that, and how he's not paying attention to that, and how his DSA candidates that they keep pitching up. Now we have Daria, who's like competing in that area right now. They don't care about the area. They don't care about those problems. For them, it'll always be a dumping ground for illegal immigrants. It'll always be a place where they throw all the people in, and they don't
Is
really
that
consider.
is that who's running in 26? That woman Daria in this particular district?
Yeah, she's running in 2026. She just got announced. She's now being backed by Zoran. The incumbent has been there for 10 years now. And he's like the leader of the, Hispanic caucus within Congress. So he has a lot of, power in terms of Hispanic power and Hispanic reach within that area. I am going to be obviously watching this next race very, very carefully to see exactly how much of the vote gets split and how people are kind of setting their votes, because I think that'll be important. But heading into 2028, I think it should be, a 3-candidate run, a 2-candidate run, but at least someone coming from the other side to say like, hey, there's an alternative to this, and we don't just have to accept the scraps from Manhattan. And I think that's what the people feel.
Did you see? I thought I saw online. I don't know if it's true or not, but there's like 700,000 signatures to kind of oust Mondani that was sent up to Hochul's office. Did you see that? I
I
mean,
mean,
I have a feeling it's not going to happen, but it's nice to know that we got to
mine
stop.
down 5 times, so hopefully it's true. Like, I was like, how many can I submit? No, I mean, I think it's true. I think there is a growing base of people who did not support him. I think, the margin or the percentage that he won on is not very strong. He was going up against an independent who was scandaled and had tons of like negative things about him. Still just barely got, the majority of the voter base. And when you look at the voter base, you're basically looking at people who are gentrifiers, people who are new to the areas, people who are not native New Yorkers, who have not lived here for decades and have seen like what has happened to New York under bad leadership. So yeah, I don't
At
doubt
the
that.
risk of saying, and the horrible straight, white women. You know what I mean? And the gay community supported him too because he's cute,
Yeah,
whatever. You know what I mean? It's just we've been hijacked, and I think it has to stop. and it's just going to take a lot of work because they're so well funded as opposed to what we're not. Yeah, no, I wish you luck. So you're going to come up with a platform. You'll give me an email address. I can just put in the link so people can find out what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think, my approach to it is very much focused around community building. Like, I've been building communities for a long time. Obviously, spent the past 10 years, working on a sex positive community that's done very well. I'm very good at figuring out what people want, and what the specific community wants. Right now, we are looking at events that'll be hosted uptown. We're doing some takeovers at the Radio Hotel, which will be kind of the first, laying down the introductions and getting people familiar with my brand outside of, what I've done before. And I think that we can bring a lot of people together. I think there's also a lot of education that needs to happen. I don't think that people are fully aware of how negatively the Democratic Party has impacted Puerto Rico, how negatively it's impacted places like the Dominican Republic, how negatively it's impacted Harlem. And we've seen, like, a gradual decline in terms of Harlem for a lot of people who are residents there and been there for a long time, now dealing with the same type of gentrification that they have been dealing with in Williamsburg and now in Bushwick. Families literally getting kicked out and pushed out of the area to bring in some new people. And also, I don't think, a lot of the people in the Bronx are appreciative of the fact that, of the 250,000 migrants who ended up staying here permanently through COVID, most of them were moved into those areas. So they're dealing with schools that are overpopulated with people who do not speak English. They're dealing with the declining returns in terms of how much of their money is going towards education and seeing the outcomes for their kids. And now Mondami is cutting all the gifted programs. So even the kids who
Yeah,
could have
that
excelled,
was
could have advanced, have no opportunities for that. And I am a product of the gifted programs of the Bronx. The reason why I was able to leave the Bronx and kind of build and grow and succeed in life is because of those programs. So seeing it personally, how positive those things were, and not understanding why there's now no money for it, is something that I think a lot of parents feel, and a lot of parents share in that concern. So right now, it's identifying what are the issues and what are the major issues that are pushing voters to vote how they vote. I think there is an educational aspect of a real understanding as to exactly what the Democratic Party stands for and who they stand for, and how none of the residents in those areas are those people anymore. And I think that, with time, I can build up the base, I can build up my voice. I know I can do social media better than a lot of people that are running within this campaign. And I know I can build up the press and the attention that I need to actually, like, sustain a campaign. So hopefully that's enough to,
Well, you
like, at
can
least
only take it a day
get
at a
out there
time.
and
But
try.
I'm just curious, in those 10 years of the sex positive community, are those people able to kind of support your endeavor and are cheering for you? And how can you make your campaign sexy? Which could be, my recommendation, just kind of, not only the facts, but get people to kind of get romanced into your campaign. You know what I mean?
I know. I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways, with the parties that we're doing, there's going to be a bigger salsa element to it. So we are going to have a lot of Latin dance and a lot of, sexiness that comes with our Latinas and
That
Latinos.
is just sexy, I'm telling you.
We're going to be doing sexy for sure. And I also think that's something that a lot of candidates can't do, and they can't do successfully, but I've, been fortunate enough to, like, have that in my background. But yeah, no, I think that the campaign will be sexy. I think that people will be excited about some of the stuff that gets thrown out there. One of my big initiatives right now is a group that I'm calling Help, which is for the Harlem East. What are we calling it for? Oh, Harlem East Local Partnership. So we're looking at all the retail stores, or not retail, but the food stores that are around La Marqueta, because that's going to be the first Mandami stand that's going to be coming into New York, the first Mandami Mart, and really just creating a program where they can compete against that, and really showcasing how unfair it is when government comes and competes against small businesses, and really kind of highlighting some of the businesses in that area. So we are taking initiatives that are sexy and fun, and that'll be a definite part of the campaign. But we're also looking at the real pains being caused by Mondami, and how we can fight against that.
I
And
mean,
so,
the small little, bodegas is like gold to galvanize those people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, look,
yeah,
we have to
because
make
he's
people
gonna
aware.
go. He's like he comes. He's funded, so his people think that everyone relates to that kind of top down messaging. You know, you come from the street, you come from the bodegas, you come. That's gonna get the serious supporters. I see here what just happened in LA. As much as Spencer lived in, an affluent neighborhood and whatever, he went to the streets. I direct messaged his campaign manager right away, but I don't technically live in LA, so I didn't get to vote for him. But a friend of mine was in the campaign. I said, you have got to get to like the black area. You've got to get to the area that burned down, not just the Palisades. You have to go to, Altadena. You
Yeah,
can't just be too white. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
he, by the end of the campaign, he was like China, Koreatown,
No, he was
Chinatown,
like last day he was at Roscoe's. He was like getting his, he was getting his chicken and waffles and
that was
enjoying,
genius.
which was great,
I mean, it was a little obvious, but I liked it anyway because
I mean,
Roscoe's is
it's
delicious.
obvious, but not as obvious as some of those things can be sometimes.
No, no,
Like
no, true, true, true.
there's definitely more of an
But
authenticity to him and his approach, which I appreciate.
there's a movie that I was reminded of his whole campaign, which you should see if you haven't seen. It's called Meet John Doe. It's from the 40s. It's just a great movie. And it's about he becomes like any man and doesn't want to have anything to do with politics, but because he speaks for the people, he gets
Yeah,
thrust into that. It's just a great lesson in authenticity and truth, and there was none of that with Mondani. And that is why it's so incredible. Democrats so want to be told a lie and sold a bill of goods, so want to
yeah,
believe the lie that they're being told. It's unbelievable. And I'm sure you can agree with this, having also at about the same time left the Democratic Party. I mean, you were there for 24 years. I've been there for like 50 fucking years. You know what I mean? And like, to like lift the veil and just be in this space where I'm not listening to the talking points, anyone's talking points, my talking points, and to see the people lying. And when you see all the scamming from the government programs and the NGOs, and we used to think, oh, the NGOs, and now they're like the evildoers. You know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, I think there was like always that facade, and always that kind of like veneer to the Democratic Party, and it was very hard to kind of get beyond that, and to see what was actually happening. And I think it's the first time in history that I remember where we were really looking at fraud, we're looking at abuse, and we're looking at, how these people have stolen from Americans and have taken our tax dollars and used it for whatever projects they want and to pay whoever they want to pay and to make us believe that we are being helped by it. And I think people right now are just like, there's no way. There's no way we're spending billions of dollars on the homeless, and this is still what I see on the streets. There's no way that we're paying all this money for education, but no one can read. There's no way that we are funding all these programs, but pride can't afford to like take place in certain cities because they just don't have the money for it. It's absolutely ridiculous.
And but the numbers don't add up
Yeah,
because it's a 350 million just for this state. Like the numbers, it's fake. It's also fake. Like
yeah,
like California, we're the fourth largest economy in the world, and we're how much in hock? It's just none of it
yeah.
makes sense. Even
Well,
America in hock, and even the
okay,
Republicans don't
how is
bullshit.
that even possible? How are you the fourth largest economy in the world, but you have the highest rate of poverty? Like there's something wrong there. And you're supposed to be the ones who like help the people who are downtrodden. Like how? If you're not, like how do you run on these things when you're not actually doing them? And I think that is something that a lot of people will wake up to. And I really do feel like we are heading into a new period. We've had periods within American history where it has been majority Republican and we've done amazing things. We've had periods where it's been majority Democrat and we really didn't see anything happen. And I think people are realizing that now. And I think that there is going to be this growing swell of individuals who are supportive of the Republican Party. We saw it within the last election for Trump. Almost 50% of Latinos voted for Trump. Why?
Yeah.
Because the Democratic Party tried calling him Latinx and no one understood what the hell that meant. So you had this party who's trying to define who their voters are and say, like, you are our voters. And if you don't vote for us, then you're not what you say you are. And then you have the other side being like, hey, do you want to like get a job that actually pays you well? Do you want to pay less in taxes? Do you want to own your property and not pay property taxes? Do you want to feel safe in your neighborhoods? Do you want to see your streets cleaned up and not be afraid of getting stabbed or getting robbed or witnessing someone dying on the side of the street because we have to be nice to the homeless? Like there's a lot of people who just do not want that. And I don't think the Democratic Party understands that, and they keep running with these things that majority of people do not like.
I mean,
So yeah,
but the majority so far who voted in the mayor race voted from Karen Bass, who hit the street. I mean, you can't even drive on Fairfax. I mean, I don't have a car anymore because I live in a kind of area where it's like
a converter.
no, no. I gave up my car because I live in an area where I literally can do everything on foot, like in New York City.
Amazing.
It's unbelievable. It's like a pocket of gold. So I don't need the car, and if I, it's $7 a gallon in my neighborhood. I mean, are you kidding? Anyway, the thing is that so many people blindly just voted for her again for whatever the reason is. I can't justify. Are you that miserable that you can just continue the misery? You know what I mean? Because the whole campaign from Spencer was about optimism and hope and change and, hope and change. Remember that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it's gonna take some time. I think people are very blinded by their just utter and absolute hate of Donald Trump. So anything that's associated with him, anything that's connected with him, they're just going to vote against that without even thinking about what the other side is actually offering. And people will be stuck like that for a bit. But in 2028, Donald Trump is not running, and it's not like something that is going to be part of our political scene forever. Eventually things go away. We had the Bushes for a long time, and then we had Bush Jr. I don't think that's happening in Trump's case. I don't think we're getting Trump Jr. into the office anytime soon.
No.
So yeah, I
But
think
I
people.
but you are tapping into the Latin community, and I have a very strong suspicion that Marco Rubio is going to be positioned as a possible candidate. Which, girl, sign me up
Yeah,
because he has
I'm
been so good. You know what? It always boils down to you vote for someone who you want to either have a drink with or you want to sit down and break bread with, right? Nobody wanted to sit with Hillary and nobody wanted to sit down with fucking Kamala, right? And I will never forgive the Democratic Party, not her as much as the people who did
yeah,
not show up to vote. I'll never forgive them because I
yeah.
made my life's work supporting women and their strength and their voice. And I did a documentary about it. And we aired 2 weeks before the election, and it went over like a fucking lead balloon. So
Yeah.
I,
As someone who supported both Hillary and Kamala, just because I felt it needed to happen and something needed to happen there, like I was just blindly supporting it. I didn't agree with the policies. I didn't agree with Hillary's history and all the things that she did. But that was it. That was the option. So we did what we had to do, and we voted the way that we had to
oh,
vote.
we
And we
were good soldiers.
yeah, and I think
And
that
that's everything that they accuse the MAGA and the everything. It's like we're looking at a mirror that they're putting up, except they're looking at themselves and accusing us of all the things.
yeah,
I don't
no,
know if I
100%.
said that right, but you know what I'm saying?
It's like every accusation becomes a projection. It's like you don't understand like how how unexciting that is for people. But going back to the point of Marco Rubio, I think again this is a bigger point as to where the Latino vote is going to go. I think the Latino vote will be securely Republican if they run Marco Rubio. I think the majority that we'll get is going to continue. They might not get as much of the youth vote, but the majority of Latinos will vote for Rubio. And Latinos are set to be one of the majorities within America within a short period of time, and definitely continues to grow as a category. So the Republicans being the first on that, it's going to be a big win for them. And
Yeah,
I
and
think,
he's got a great personality. He's funny,
yeah,
you know what I mean? And he's not like bullish like Trump, but he's got the one-liners. That's gonna work. That's gonna play.
that's going to
That's
play.
gonna
Yeah.
play. Hmm.
Yeah. I don't see who the Democrats are going to be lining up. Like right now, in terms of who they're choosing or who they're trying to line up for this, it's just like the
It's
worst
like
option.
AOC, bring it on. Bring it. AOC, I mean, oh my God, she's got more word salad than friggin' Kamala, and that's a lot of word salad.
No, 100%. Yeah. So I don't even see how that's happening.
And Gavin
But
doesn't stand a chance. Pete doesn't stand a chance. What's his name from Kentucky is way too milk toasty. That's why in this, I don't know how much you covered the California governor race, but this guy Matt Mahan he's the mayor of San Jose. He raised the most money hands down the fastest. He's young, he's handsome, milk toast, and came in like sixth, right? So you can't be milk toast. And that guy in, but I forget his name, from Kentucky, the one that's the governor, you could
mhm.
fall asleep from him. He's lovely, and I actually thought he should have been the vice president pick to Kamala, since we knew that they weren't going to take the Jew Shapiro. But what do I know? They went with the equivalent of Tim Kaine, 2020. I mean,
Like
oh my
Tim, so
God.
because you know that they knew about the fraud. You know that they knew about how bad things were in Minnesota, and they still chose him because they were being homophobic and they were being anti-Semitic. Like because of those two reasons, that's why we end up
Right,
with
right, right.
you
But
know what
wait, I mean, but
like, and I also heard like he brought in a whole bunch of money as soon as they announced him, and
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
I saw that too. But just the look of it, like when Hillary was on stage back in 2000, was it 16, and Tim Kaine turned the curtain, it was like fucking the dating game. I called my sister. I said, Hillary's gonna lose. Why did she? And I was 100% right.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That was the most hilarious thing. I mean, it that like the paunchy old white man is not a look, and it
yeah.
doesn't offset the woman. I mean, it's so
Like
like
the
you could
weird
just see them
strategy.
sitting in the room talking it through. You know what I mean? Idiots,
Yeah,
idiots.
I mean, I like we just got the DNC, autopsy report from the past election. We saw the mistakes that they had made, and it's just strange to look at that. And it's like 2 years later now, and they're still making the same mistakes. Like still, like what is turning people away. You know that the party is like losing voters. You're losing new registrants. You're losing a lot of things. You're now gonna obviously lose the House, and I think like we're gonna see like a big shift in that. Next comes the 2030 census, which means you're gonna lose a lot from all the people who've already moved out of your states. Like you have to at some point say like we need to make a change, and instead you go straight into like extreme Islamists and literal Nazis. Like I don't
What's that?
understand.
I mean, I don't know. I really feel like Abe's lobotomy farms need to be like a thing. People
Yeah,
need to be, because they're not coming back. You can't get people off the teat of insanity.
yeah,
It's mass lobotomies. And I know this sounds crazy and vile and whatever, but nothing else is going to change those people.
yeah.
Anyway, well, I am excited for your campaign. I'm sure along the way you can always check in and we can kind of really do very specific activation once you're kind of entrenched in the horror. But I can't tell you enough how you need to be part of a whole new breed of people running. It's
Yeah.
the Spencer Pratt phenomenon. People who are just these people are gross, and I'm sure.
I was going back and forth because, like, as I was kind of entering into the political side of things, I was asking, like, well, what is the purpose of this and where I want to go? And I did have, obviously, I have a lot of fears because of, what I've done and my past and the work I've done and, all the things that can come up. But it's like, we're literally at the point where they're running Nazis and, people who say that they want to rape people. I don't think that anything I've done in my past is anywhere near as concerning about what the Democrats are putting their hat on.
I
Um,
at least am calling for lobotomy. They're asking for people to be killed. I mean, I think I'm still much
yeah,
more of a humanist. My humanitarianism is a lot more notable than those
I
idiots.
want to see people getting off of their SSRIs. I want to see people like actually being able to deal with things and accept that that people have difference of opinions and it's okay and you can argue them, but you can't kill them. I would like some normalcy return to the Democratic Party. That'd be really nice at some point.
I'm not even thinking about that at this point because I really want to be. I mean, I don't think I'm going to live long enough to see this, but I think what is starting to happen now that you're talking about and that you represent as to the Spencers as well is um, had after 2016 when Hillary lost and there was the Never Trumpers who were these very advanced, sophisticated, well-funded Republicans, they should have come together and done what an independent, smart party needs to be. And I think that that could be something that evolves out of this. It's not going to happen by 28, of course. It may not even happen by 30 or 40 or something. But I really feel like this country proves certain things don't work. One of them is the two-party system. And the
Yeah,
other parties we have are just too like pathetic.
yeah,
And we
no,
are, and you and I are part of the silent majority. We are the unrepresented, homeless, politically savvy people who don't want to place their bets on either side at this moment, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the independent party and I think the people who are, they're voting based off of policy rather than, party. I think that group is going to grow. It already is a majority. And now it's just convincing those people not to sit out the elections and not to feel like their vote doesn't matter. And I think we saw that really, really well in California, where people were like, willing to step up and actually show up to vote, which I think is really important.
I mean, I don't know if you get my Substack, but I had a dream 2 nights ago that they're going to, Democrats are going to try to steal the election from Spencer and,
Yeah.
throw those votes that they're counting to Nithya. And if that happens, I want to see a reorder of the BLM riots, only the reverse. And rather
Yeah.
than eat the rich start chomping on the other ones because there's got to be, this is not going to go over well if that's what happens.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I think that there needs to be a counter to it. And I think that the left has a really well functioning machine in order to get people out into the streets and get people complaining about things. And I think that the right and the independents need to get smart on that as quickly as possible. And
Well,
kind of,
it's very well funded from Qatar and all that shit. I mean, we don't
yeah,
have that. We have just a lot of rich people in the Republican side and in the independents and even the entertainment industry, but they don't spend the money that way. They're not as dastardly as the Democrats are. The Democrats are
yeah.
dastardly.
I
Anyway.
mean, we just found out even from like SPLC, if you've been paying attention to that case with the Southern Poverty Law Center,
Oh my God.
um, they just found out that they had like line items for what they actually paid for. They were paying for new hoods for the KKK. They were paying for new hoods for the KKK.
Wow.
And we're supposed to trust them. We're supposed to believe them. We're supposed to give them our money and expect them to spend it in intelligent ways.
And
It's like,
how about they've uncovered Act Blue is a whole big scam, and they don't, you can't block Act Blue. You can
yeah,
say no more, and it still keeps on coming.
yeah. I
They
mean, they have
are
the
dastardly.
investigation. You have the investigations, and every single like CEO, C-suite person quits. That's not suspicious to anyone, and it's still going. So I think there's a lot of corruption. I think that people are more aware of it than ever before. But I think it's going to take some time for everyone to really accept that. Like it's very hard to think that the party that you trust, the one that's supposed to be fighting against, discrimination and racism and all these things, are the same people funding it, the same
Yeah.
people funding the hate groups that then they fight for you against and raise millions of dollars to fight against. It's like it's absolutely ridiculous.
And
Um,
that, and also people don't want to feel like they've been hoodwinked. It's hard to accept that. It's been, and
yeah,
I feel I am at this moment, like, feel very isolated because I've lost a lot of my following from social media. I've lost my closest friends. I'm talking at 25 and 50 years. They're just not interested in the fact that I support Israel, Uber alles, and they're just not. And my content is so freaked out. It's almost like I, I'm one generation away from the Holocaust in the camps, dead, on shot in the head, whatever. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And people of color who were my closest friends are like, you're so far removed from being told you have to go pick cotton. You know what I'm saying? you can't be angry at me for having this kind of visceral reaction. You're talking
Yeah.
about I've lost all my family and grandparents. Anyway, I want to go on and on. But I intend to keep an eye on your campaign. I love following you on social. You find all the good ones, you know.
Yeah. And thank you for sending me stuff too. You know, every so often
No, I'm
it's
going
a
to
good
send you all that stuff
yeah,
because
please do.
yeah,
Anyway,
feel
it
free
was
to
great
do the
talking to you.
same.
Thank you so much for doing this.